Dr. Marty here, and today we are going to move on to notes on section 2.3, which is how to solve multi-step equations with fractions. So we're solving equations that have a variable in them, like x, and these ones all have fractions, okay? So there's going to be 5 steps that we're going to use, and I'm going to walk you through these steps with 4 different examples. So step 1 is to find the common denominator. Remember our common denominator, we're going to look at the denominator or the bottom of all of our fractions, and we're going to find the common number that's unique between all of them. Okay. Then we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by the common denominator to get rid of the fractions. Okay. Third, we're going to use the distributive property if necessary. Fourth, we're going to combine like terms if necessary, and then we're going to go ahead and solve for the variable. Okay. So let's just use examples to explain this. The first example says 1/5 x plus 2/5 equals 21/5. Sorry for the focus. I'm just trying to make sure you can see what I'm doing. So here we have 1/5 x, so x over 5 really, plus 2/5 equals 21/5. Now here our common denominator is really simple because it's 5, right? We can see here that 5 is the denominator in all of these fractions. So we can just multiply this whole thing by 5, okay? Now, if we're going to do something to one side, we're going to do it to the other. So I'm going to multiply this side by 5. But I'm also going to multiply this side by 5. All right? Now this 5, because of the distributive property, is actually going to cancel out with this 5 and this 5. And then this 5 is going to cancel out with this 5. So what we're going to be left with is 1x. I'll write it as 1x, even though it's really just x, plus 2 equals 21, right? Which is just x plus 2 equals 21. We can subtract 2 from this side to get the x isolated. If we do it to that side, we have to do it to the other side. Remember, we always do something to both sides. So x equals 21 minus 2, which is 19. That was a pretty easy one because our denominators were all the same. So our common denominator was just 5 because it was the same everywhere. Now it's going to get a little bit more complicated. Okay? So over here, we have example 2, which says that 1/3 x plus 5 equals 4/7. We have 2 fractions here. We have a 3 and a 7. What is our common denominator? Well, they're different here, so we've got to find the number that these two have in common based upon their multiples. Well, it turns out that we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 7, 14, 21. 21 is going to be our first. Okay, 21 is our common denominator. So we're going to multiply this side of the equation by 21, right? To do that, we also multiply this side of the equation by 21. All right. Now, here I'm going to show this using the using distributive property because I want to make sure you see what I'm doing. So I'm going to distribute this 21 to here and to here. So I've got 21 times 1/3 x, right, plus 21 times 5. And here I've got 4/7 times 21. Right? Now, let's go back and let's simplify. Here we've got 1/3 x, 21, so we're going to cancel out this 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7, right? So we're going to be left with 7x. Here we've just got 21 times 5, that's 105. Okay, over here, this 7 is going to be divided into 21, that's going to leave us 3. We've got 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Now we're just going to solve for x. 7x plus 105 equals 12. I'm going to subtract 105 from this side, but if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do it over here as well. That gives me 7x equals negative 93. Divide by 7, I get x equals negative 93/7. Don't forget that negative sign. Now, this is a funky fraction, but it's not divisible, right? 93 is not divisible by 7, and so we have to leave it in that form. X equals negative 93/7. Okay? Sorry about spilling over into example 4. Let's look at example 3. Here we've got x over 2 minus 2x over 16 equals 3/8. All right, let's find our common denominator. Well, we've got a 2, a 16, and 8. So we know our smallest common denominator has got to be at least 16. Does 2 go into 16? Yes. 2 times 8 is 16. 8 times 2. So 16 is going to be the number that we multiply both sides by. Okay? Now, I'm not going to write out what I did up here, distributive property. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So here we've got 16 and 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8, so I'm left with 8x. Okay? This 16 and this 16 are going to cancel. Okay? So I'm just going to be left with minus 2x, right? 16 divided by 16 is 1. Here I'm going to have 16, right? And 8. I can divide by 8. That's left with a 2 here. So 2 times 3 is 6. So I get 8x, right? Minus 2x equals 6. Guess what? I can combine like terms. Remember, we're combining like terms. We get 6x equals 6. Now we can solve for the variable, divide by 6 on this side. If I do that, I have to divide by 6 on that side. X equals 6 divided by 6, or 1. Okay. And then finally, our last example, 1/4 plus 4x over 5 equals 11 over 20, right? The first step is to look for the common denominator, okay? Common denominator can be no less than 20. Does 4 go into 20? Yes. 4 times 5 is 20. Does 5? Yes. 5 times 4. So 20 is going to be what we're going to multiply by. We're going to multiply this side by 20, this side by 20. So once again, I'm just going to do this as I go. 20 times a fourth. So I can cross this 4 off, divide 20 by 4. I'm left with a 5 here. A fourth of 20 is 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4, right? So if I cross the 5 and I cross the 20, I'm left with 4. 4 times 4x is 16x. So plus 16x equals, we get 11 over 20 times 20. 20's and 20 cancels. I get 11 here. Okay? Now, I want to solve for x. So I'm going to simplify the equation for x. To do that, I got to subtract 5. I subtract 5 on both sides. Be careful here. I get 16x over here, and 11 minus 5 is 6. Divide by 16 on both sides. Okay? I get x equals 6 over 16, but once again, this is not in simplest form. 6 over 16 is not in simplest form. Why? Because 6 is divisible by 2 and 16 is divisible by 2. If I divide both by 2, I get 3 over 8. So that is how to solve multi-step equations with fractions. You find the common denominator, multiply both sides by it, use the distributive property if necessary, combine like terms, and then solve for the variable.